Hi, thank you for joining me today. In this video, we're going to be discussing a spelling rule in English. This is often referred to in a sort of rhyme, which you'll hear as I comes before E except after C. Meaning, in a word, like for instance, the one I'm going to give you, where you've got the word receive, right? You're going to just take a look at the C, the E, and the I, this particular configuration. Here we have an EI, and some people would like to spell it IE. However, in the rule that we're discussing, if E and I or I and E comes after the letter C, then it must be configured or positioned as EI. Not always, though. We are going to be discussing, as with everything in English, the exceptions that are tied to this rule. All right, so again, in the example of receive, this is not an exception. This does follow the criteria, meaning we need to have EI. If I were to give you another word like perceive, I know to configure the E and the I as such because it follows the letter C. If you were to, I can't think all of a sudden. If you were to deceive someone, right, which is very negative, often a negative thing, you're deceiving someone, right? They believe one thing, but you do another. Here we have the letter C, and I know, it's got to be E and I when I spell the word, in case I ever forget or get confused. However, in the cases where it is I before E, right, where there's no, in theory, letter C in the word for us to be confused by or for us to need to consult, we would see it in words like believe. So there's the EI, believe. We have peace, right, like a fragment of something. Or we have a priest, so a person in a church. And so those are all examples of I coming before the letter E. There are no letter C's, but some people might say, well, there's a letter C here. Yes, but the letter C comes after the I and the E as opposed to before, in which case you would want to switch those two letter combinations. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the exceptions that are involved in this rule. Again, the rule being I usually comes before the letter E, except after the letter C. However, there are two things to consider. When it comes to the first thing to consider, I want to say that I does come before E except after C. However, you don't change that particular configuration if the sound that they make is an A. Like an example would be reign, right? So if you have a king or queen and they have dominion over something or they have power over something, we say that they reign over it. So here you have E and I, and you're thinking, well, there's no letter C, so it should be I before E. No, because in this example, E and I make the A sound, like reign, right? And then you've got another one, freight. So a truck carrying cargo. We often say it has cargo freight. Here, the EI again produces that A sound. So I know not to switch it to an IE, even though, again, in theory, you're thinking, well, the rule says I comes before E except after C. This fits the rule. However, again, this is an exception. Okay, again, the exception being, if it produces an A sound, leave it alone, right? Keep it as EI. All right, the rule also does not apply if the EI or the IE configuration falls between two syllables, meaning if I were to use it in the word science, this is a great example because you have the letter C, and so you're thinking I comes before E except after C. So shouldn't it be EI? No, only because there are two syllables here. You've got science. The I is divided from its E counterpart in the second syllable. So again, they don't fall into one syllable, so they're not united within that syllable, meaning this rule doesn't apply. Another example would be deity, which is a word to describe like a god or a higher being that people would worship. So deity. Here, again, they're divided between two syllables. Anytime that's the case, again, the rule does not apply for I before E except after C, or again, if either configuration produces the A sound. However, broadly speaking, almost always, again, exceptions, which we discussed, you will put the I before the letter E, except when following the letter C, in which case it would be EI. Okay, hopefully, and I pray to God that this saved, because I have been having the worst luck. Okay, this is saved. If you found this video helpful, I would very much appreciate a like, and of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. I will continue to produce content related to language development, and I look forward, hopefully, to seeing you in the next one. All right. Thank you.